I'm not saying that like technical people should give up on that. Like actually that's our superpower.
Welcome to Not Another CEO podcast. I'm your host, David Politis. Every week, we talk to inspiring leaders and get the true stories, the ups and downs, the lessons learned, and come away with actionable advice for our own journeys. Today's guest is a serial entrepreneur. He's currently building his fourth company. He started his first one when he was a teenager. He's been the co-founder and CTO at all three of his previous companies, and this is the first time that he's in the CEO seat. He spent his career at the cutting edge of AI, building transformative products that redefine the way we interact with technology. His previous company, Visual Lead, was acquired by Alibaba. Now, as the co-founder and CEO of Qodo, he's taking AI to new heights, building tools that push the boundaries of automation, decision-making, and software development quality. He's a technologist at heart, but also a sharp operator, combining deep technical expertise with a strong business acumen. Please welcome co-founder and CEO of Qodo, Itamar Friedman.
Well, thank you very much for having me here, Dave, and you build like quite a big expectation. I'll try to
Well, I'm excited. Let's jump into the first question. So what is the one thing you've done, big or small, at Qodo that's had the biggest impact, and you'll do again if you're CEO of another company in the future, which my guess is you will be?
yeah, Qodo is my life mission, except of a family, etc. So this is the company that I'm going to work on and for a long time. But okay, so I think to answer your question is thoroughly and continuously think and discuss and push forward our culture. And I think like in the early days, especially in my first company, it was more of a company than a startup, as a teenager, etc. And also my second one, when people talked about culture and values, I almost like puked. It felt to me like, why are we doing that? All we need to do is just build like a really good, like a freaking product or etc. or give a really good service. But over time, and I'll love to elaborate on that, I learned like how much like culture, maybe the one single most important thing when you're building, a company and not just like one time product. So I think that one single thing is the most important thing that a CEO and a co-founder, but specifically the CEO, needs to think about. I think it's the only thing that's actually vertical. There's sales, marketing, or horizontal. I meant, sorry. There's sales, marketing, R&D, product, but culture is horizontal for the entire company. So basically, when we started Qodo, one of the first things we've done is thinking what are our 2-3 main values, what are our principles, how we want the company to look like. What is a coder? What is that like? What does it mean? Like, how are we going to interview people, etc.? That was very, very important. And by the way, I'm not saying we nailed it. The entire idea with culture, I think it is built a long time. It's not something static. So that's like, it might sound trivial, but like culture, you can read about it in the book Amp It Up by Franz Altman. But still, like I would say that really like putting the effort on that as the first principle of how to build a successful company is something that I've done only on this last company that I'm building, Qodo.
Do you think that like you said, you've really built 2 startups, but 4 companies, but even compared to the last company, is it the same culture? I mean, because I think you have some of the same people, right, around
Yeah.
the table in this business.
I do not recommend at all to copy a culture of one company to another. Let me explain. If the same people are now building SpaceX or Netflix, I would have totally different, let me give a more extreme case. If I would start building Facebook or the Facebook or build SpaceX, I would build 2 different cultures. You cannot
With the same people. With the
same people, like the same founders. I'm not saying that the same people are perfect for the same mission or or market and vision and technology, etc. But let's assume that you can do that. And there are cases like that. I saw a lot of people not from healthcare doing the most successful healthcare companies, just an example. So let's assume that the same people, same founders, are building SpaceX or the Facebook. I would build a totally different culture. For example, move fast and break things could work really well for Facebook in the early days. But for SpaceX, I'm not saying it's not true. They're not. They're brave and they're willing to risk and things to break. But it's not one of their values. Move fast and break things, right? So I take a lot, from what I built in a previous company in a sense of my learnings and some of the core principles and guidelines, maybe one or two values, etc. But I'm building the culture that fits for our market, for our clients, for our ICP, for our mission, for our vision. So totally different. Like I would say more different than similar.
This is the first time in the CEO seat of building a venture-backed company.
Right.
Did you know that you want to be CEO? Like, how did you come? Because you've been very successful on the technology side, and now you're stepping into this role as CEO. How did that come? How did that come about?
Yeah, I didn't imagine. Actually, it was quite a hard transition to be frank. I love technology. I think like the reason I got into entrepreneurship, like to start building businesses, is because I was excited about the technology, not the business. To be frank, like building, for example, as a teenager, website in the '90s with Flash and things like that. It was exciting for me. The concept I can do with for loops inside animations, programmatically, etc. That was what was exciting for me, and I think that slap that I got at the later stages, that business and product and marketing are so important, maybe even like more. I'll elaborate on that. I don't think like it's I'm a bit exaggerating or not presenting it the right way, but for the sake of this point, or more important than the technology, that slap that I got me like thinking. Although a CTO should think about business and marketing and product, I did think that I need to do like a strong move to bring into fruition what I learned. For example, in Alibaba, one of the products that we worked on was kind of a photo album app, like similar to Google Photos or etc. And within a year and a half, we reached to 10 million monthly active users and continue to grow from there. One of the things that we saw is that you can develop a really good feature, okay? And then it could sit there behind the scenes for months over months, and then what could actually make people start using it. Like I know I'm risking saying something easy like to catch but hard to do, is the discoverability of the feature, but even in a really annoying way. For example, discoverability by giving a gift if you're going to use that feature, like Dropbox, the early days, giving you 100 megabyte if you share a tweet or something like that, or if you have an influencer using that feature and promoting it on social. And like for me as a tech person, I was like, oh, this feature is so good, and the technology underneath it, so much AI being used here, and like but then nobody uses it until you don't do like proper product operation, product marketing, etc. That realization like started like moving the wheels in my head that I want to do more of that. And then like when I did it, like I got kind of fall in love and decided in the next startup, I'll be the CEO. And for some reason, I'm enjoying it. But yeah, but I do admit that Qodo is a very techie, very it's a developer tool, developer
Right.
platform. So like it does strongly related to technology, even when you do marketing and business and product.
When you think about stepping into the CEO role, being founder, CEO, co-founder, CEO of this company, what is something you expected to be easy that actually has turned out to be hard?
I would say that, like, if we talked about the four companies that I
Mm,
had, but some of them are companies, right? As a teenager or a startup. So one of them felt like walking, in the jungle and selling like spray against mosquitoes, and we can talk about what I
mm,
mean. And then like another felt like opening like a kiosk like for selling sandwiches in New York. The other one felt more like a desert, rocking in the desert, the famous Death Valley, etc. This one was and intentionally, I wanted to be in that field. Is like being in the storm, and not being in the middle where it's quiet, like 1 mile from the heart of
mm,
the
mm,
storm.
mm,
And I wanted to be here because I want, like, I felt that the perfect storm, creates the perfect opportunity. And like you want to increase, you get lucky if you create luck, or you create opportunity to you get lucky, etc. And I wanted to be in that storm. What I didn't know is that this is gonna be such a fast, like an
mm,
amazing storm, and as the CEO, you kind of need to be the captain that sees everything. I know I have great people. I have like the CPO and people in charge in sales and marketing, etc. And I have great investors, but still, you need to like kind of oversee everything, and it's such a fast moving like field that it's harder than expected. I actually thought that being in a storm, it just drag you along,
mm,
right?
mm,
Like that's the idea. Like when you're in the desert, you don't know where to go, and if you are in a growing market, like the fourth step to epiphany, it talks about the four type of markets, and if you're in a growing market with growing competitors, you're going to grow with it, etc. Which is true, but still, like navigating the ship
mm.
within that storm is like harder, like information wise, for example, than I expected.
And can you elaborate a little bit because I just gave the brief intro in the beginning, just elaborate a little bit of what Qodo does, what storm you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So Qode is a coding platform for developers that focus on helping putting AI to work for code review and code testing. It's a platform in the sense that it has multiple agents, multiple tools that connect to different parts of your software development lifecycle. It has an agent that connects to your IDE, for example, JetBrains VS Code. It has an agent connects to your Git platform like GitHub, Bitbucket, etc. It has an agent that connects to your CI/CD, and these agents work together with the developers to increase code quality and software development across the software
Mm,
development lifecycle. So if you're a CEO, what you need to think about, or if you're the management, you think about if my R&D team uses Qodo, I'll probably have lower outages and less issues with my clients, and the productivity will improve. If the VP R&D, I'm gonna play myself less time to the CEO and management why I have this fuck up or whatever, and my team will improve the
mm,
quality of software development. If I'm a developer, I'm gonna say, oh, I know that code review and testing is critical, but it's tedious, and I usually don't have the time, and I hate doing that. And now I can do that much more easily, and I don't hate that anymore. So that was Qodo. And now in the large scheme of things, we are competing in the AI assistance, AI tools for developers, and the market is like booming with a lot of successful tools, which makes sense because it's one of the most use cases. It's one of the best use cases for AI. So a lot is going on here, and even the foundation models providers like and makers like OpenAI, Anthropic, Alibaba, Meta, etc. are developing in our field, and they care about a lot about our field.
mm. What while we're on this topic, I'm curious, like, where do you, I had another guest on who said there's all the hype about AI, and really it's not going to do 100% of people, or even 90% of people's job. It's going to be years before we even get to 70%. Where what do you believe and what you're seeing? Because I think, to your point, which makes sense, specifically in development and engineering, it does feel like a field that is where the most investment from a lot of people is going to kind of to solve this. So I would love to. I'm genuinely curious to get your take on where you think we are today, where we'll be in a couple of years, and specifically, let's talk about development for now.
Yeah. I'm going to describe to you two figures. The first figure is 2 and 2 matrix. Simple software, complex software, simple task, complex task. And we're going to talk about that for a minute. Then the other figure is the famous meme, where you have like the silly, stupid person on the left. The middle is the common developer. On the right, the ninja developer. And the y-axis, I'm going to talk about how much code they're going to write, and I'm going to relate to that graph. And through these two visuals, I'm going to try to answer that. So I think that what we saw is basically in 2022, but like a month or like early 23, a couple of months after ChatGPT, we saw that basically Copilot and ChatGPT can help us complete faster simple tasks for simple software. That was really exciting because before that, like AI couldn't really work. And as we progress towards 2024, I think first of all we saw that we can do quite a complex tasks for simple software. For example, you can find a few platforms that enables you to almost build a complete website, which is a simple software, but do that end to end. That's like a complex task in a simple software. We also saw in 2024, and especially in 2025, like AI tools and like Qodo, for example, helping you to do simple tasks in complex software. And I think like throughout 2025 and 2026, we're going to start seeing like AI helping you, like the dev team, do complex tasks in complex software. That's going to be around 2026. Now, as time passes, more and more complex software would be more and more complex tasks and complex software are going to be automated and semi-automated. So this is a major change in how we do Fortune 5000 software. If AI can help you with complex tasks and complex software, even if it's not 100%, okay, even if it's just like 50%, which is a lot, like in how we see it. And I'm not saying that the other 50% is not going to be semi-automated. So throughout the years, I think we're going to see software development change a lot, and it's inevitable. Okay, having said that, it doesn't mean that in the next 5 years we're not going to see, developer rule disappear. And that leads me to the second visual. I think pre-AI, what you can see is that, again, x-axis is like a junior developer, senior, and tech lead. Juniors, they don't write a lot of code. Mid seniority, they actually write most of the code that go to production because the tech leads are actually focused on reviewing code. And when they write code, they're such a ninjas that they can write little amount of code to do a lot. And they don't repeat themselves, they write it shortly, etc. Now, I think with AI, this is going to change. How? Okay, how? And bear with me. I'm going to add a third dimension, which is the previous visual. Now add like the third axis of simple and complex software. What's going to happen, okay, is that actually like technical, the seniors, they're going to write much more code over time. Much more code. Why? Because the army of agents they're going to operate and going to write code for them will be considered as their code.
I got it.
Then suddenly the technical lead not only going to review code, but only going to quote unquote write code or review code by AI. It could be considered theirs. So their lines of code in production are going to rise. But poor juniors or in mid seniority, it means they don't need more. Their jobs may be going to reduce. So here is the thing. If you go to the third axis on the simple software, they actually can do much more than they could do before. right? Juniors suddenly can write much more complex, much more simple software, which they couldn't do before, and even push that to production. So it's going to be this two-dimension histogram, a Gaussian histogram is going to be turned into different distribution in simple software and complex software. And that's a really long answer to tell you.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah, the profession is going to change, but the developers are not going to disappear in the next 5 years. Technical leads can do much more. Juniors can do much more. Mid-seniority can become more easily like seniors because they have AI tools to use, etc. That's my prediction for the next 5 years. 10 years, 15 years is something else.
Thank you for, actually, that made a lot of sense. I know that took a variety of virtual diagrams that you were, but it does make a lot of sense. And I think, you can feel even maybe that developer chart. If you go before even the junior developer, you have people who don't know how to code today, who actually joined that spectrum, because now people who don't know how to code are able to build simple software, simple tasks in simple software. So you kind of now you democratize it even more, than it is today.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay, so let me ask you another question. So get back to you being CEO for the first time. The next question is, what did you think was going to be hard that actually turned out to be easy?
Yeah. I take the risk, and it might sound a bit arrogant, but I, for example, as a previous CDO, I did a sales, but it wasn't my profession. And I was part of, the marketing campaigns, etc., but I wasn't leading marketing. And I have great people that, are in charge of that. But having said that, as a CEO, you need, for example, to be able to interview people, and you need to know something about that field to do proper interview. By the way, you can use other people's help. You can use your investors, for example, etc., to interview your leaders. That doesn't have to be only the VP. These days, every position matters. It could also be like a director or a individual contributor. And as part of that, I found myself learning sales, rather reading books, practicing it. Same goes for marketing. But it's not only that. Eventually, at these days, I think CEO role is very out there, and you need to participate part of marketing activity. And even if you have a VP marketing, you need to lead it together. And the same go for sales. And I thought it'll be much harder. Again, putting with a bit of humbly saying, I'm sure that I can learn much more and do much better, but I didn't realize how quickly I'll feel comfortable. Even doing podcasts, it's not something that I did commonly, and now I even feel that I know I need to improve a lot. For example, answer question much quicker, but having said that, I'm not shy anymore or so. So that's something that I felt probably be very hard when moving from CTO to CEO. I didn't talk about financial and other things that as a CEO, you oversee everything. And as CTO, at least for not a huge company, you are part of it, but you don't have the ownership. I think it goes, it's much faster. By the way, one small thing, I read the book Build to Last, and one of the things that he says there is that they didn't find correlation between CEOs that are out there like Steve Jobs, etc., or charismatic, etc., to successful companies. They didn't find despite what people think, they didn't find the correlation, the connection. In my opinion, the problem is that this, the data mostly comes from 1990, and even then, I think CEOs, for example, were involved in marketing and sales, but I can understand why it wasn't that critical, or the correlation wasn't one or very positive. I think today, if we take data from I don't know 2015 towards 2025, I do think we'll find correlation that CEOs, whether you like it or not, you should like it, or need to be up there like in with the clients, with the audience, etc. So I thought it'll be very hard, and again, there's a lot to improve and change, but it's easier than I thought.
Mm. So couple thoughts. The first is, I think if you took the data from 2021 forward, it's going to be the correlation is it. I believe that it is so easy. We're talking about it right here. It is so easy to build product now. It is so easy to copy someone else. It's so easy to generate content that what differentiates you long term is the thought leadership, expertise, being out there, community. Like those are the things, partners, whatever. But the moat is not the product anymore. I would say. I mean, maybe in some extreme cases, but generally speaking, I believe that so much. I think if we look forward now, post kind of the advancements of companies like Qodo and all these other things and ChatGPT, and I actually believe that the human being at the helm of the company and the other people in the company having that presence and being out there and building that community and being trusted, that's actually going to be the moat, So that's one. Two, I spent a lot of time with technical CEOs, people who maybe they weren't co-founder before, but they were VP of engineering, they were in DevOps, and they become CEOs. I find that a lot of them, they're comfortable coding. They're comfortable in the product. And in the conversations that I have, I'm basically trying to like pull them out, of that. They just go back there naturally because that's where they're comfortable. How, I don't know. I'm trying to get like, do you have any advice? Like, how did you force yourself? Did someone tell you have to do it? Like I'm saying 90-something% of the technical founders that I meet, especially in the early days, are really, this is not natural to them. They're like, oh no, I'll hire a head of marketing to do this and I'll code. I need to code because if I don't code, the customer's not going to get like that. That's what I hear. So I'm curious if you have any sage advice for that cohort of people, for how do they get out of their comfort zone?
Yeah. The best thing I think I can do is like share my own story, because I do feel like it could be a bit like personal how you do that. So like personally, I was very, 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 very like hooked into tech. I'm talking about like, I hope it's not too much information, audience, but when I was in the WC restroom, I was like reading Archive. If you're familiar, it's like you can download the app and register to a few like machine learning stuff, etc. That's what I would do, like a newsletter that related to, now I can call it AI. Back in the days, like we feel uncomfortable, we call it like machine learning, deep learning, etc., etc. Okay, and like I actually needed to pull out, like to disconnect, like really extremely, like change the books I read. Even I would even claim to some extent not only the technical books, but also the feel good books, the science fiction books. I'm not kidding. From science fiction that is a bit more technical oriented, and let alone like the actual like books, not any more deep learning by Ian Goodfellow, but what I just said, Build to Last. I think I mentioned Amp It Up in this conversation. So right, that set of, to some extent, even the people you meet daily and who you talk with, that changes it. It changes the although we're quite old, but it's kind of like a rewire your brain. Like otherwise, like you will be pulled like automatically. Like I do believe that there's a lot of I'm opening a bracket here. Oh my God, I said an engineering statement, but I'm opening a bracket and saying like I do feel that there's a lot of resemblance like between LLMs and our brain. A lot of them, and for example, I think like a lot of what we're doing here is almost like producing the next token, system one thinking. So to change that at least, the automatic thinking, you need to rewire, and like what do you think every day? Who do you talk to every day? Who are your circles? Who you're going to dinner with, etc. That's my suggestion. And for me was like like kind of like almost like a clear cut at the point that I said, should I be the CEO or not? Should I be the CEO? Then I thought about everything that it's gonna mean. Once I decided, like a clear cut, like it took time, but the decision to do that was a clear cut.
I think that's very good advice. And I would actually say that that is exactly what people are not, they're like, well, I'm CEO, but I'm still going to do the things the way I used to do the things, And anyway, I love that advice. I'm going to definitely highlight that when we publish this, because I think that for me, at least with technical founder CEOs, co-founder CEO, like that's something that they need to hear.
But by
Let
the
me
way,
ask you,
one
go ahead.
small thing, like sometimes I hear like Microsoft CEO Satya and like Thomas, CEO of GitHub, for example, saying, or Mark Zuckerberg saying, hey, on the weekend I did this project and I coded, etc.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that like technical people should give up on that. Like actually, that's their superpower, right? That's what makes that's one of that's their superpower. That's one of their advantages. Like in might be one of their advantages in the field. But if that shouldn't be the core, it should be an advantage. It should be like a foot. Like you have a technical foot, and not it's not like, but you need to change your brain. That's what how I maybe
The
like
rewiring of the
visualizing
brain
it.
is I
Yeah,
like the rewiring of the
you need to
brain.
rewire the brain, but without. I'm not saying like losing
Right.
losing some of the knowledge and using your hands, like code, use your product, be out there, etc. Be technical, use that advantage. You probably can automate some of your CEO tasks, etc. So do that, but you need to rewire your thinking. I just don't give up on being technical, but it shouldn't be the main property, the main characteristic of how your day look like.
So I want to actually, this is a good, this reminds me of something I wanted to ask you, which is how did you find your first customers? 5 customers, 10 customers? Was that you going out there and finding them? Was that people that you were friends? Like, how did you find those first set of customers?
Yeah. So I want to tell you that even though like this quarter and it didn't finish, we doubled our ARR, and it's not like a small number. We're 100% inbound. We actually started outbound now. Even when the seed investor invested in us, we told them, hey, here's the introduction we can do for you. In like 90% of the cases, we told them, please do not. And I'll tell you why. So actually, what I'm saying to you, like just to answer you quickly, actually, I was in the front together with my co-founder, of course, Steady Credo, in front of the clients, but we waited for them to come to us, and then we fully took over and pulled them in through the pipeline. It wasn't a pipeline back then, like through the this through a process, some process, but we waited for them to come to us, and I'll tell you why. Because one of my learnings from my earlier startups, and basically it's the second one, the earlier were more like companies, is that there are 2 schools of thoughts. One, all it matters you need to move from one stage to the other. It doesn't matter how. I mean, like let's say that stages. Let's say you're a VC-backed startup. And your stage is your series, like your rounds of funding, like seed, A, B. All you care is how you move to the next step, how you move from C to A, or from A to B. And then think about the next problem you're gonna have. This makes sense because the world is dynamic and things are changing anyway. Why thinking so far ahead? The other school of thought is like, hey, maybe I'm gonna make my current like stage harder by trying to figure out how to do things right for the next steps. But then when I pass that, my next step might be easier. Okay. So and I can't tell you which is right. Like you need to think. Like it depends on a few criteria, like a few things that you might want to think about. Well, our school of thought is the second one. So we wanted at the seed stage to say we want to see that our messaging is working. We can reach our audience, or more, like our audience can find us, etc. Right? So it might be harder, but if we do that, then probably the next stage would be easier. And we had a reasoning why to do that. And so bottom line, the way I got to my first clients is by Twitter or LinkedIn or the social, and then they went to our website. And
Really?
they saw the messaging, and by the way, it's still like that today. Like we're 99% like inbound. Only now, we only now like recruited our head of SDR, etc. And so on.
Wow.
So because eventually you do want to go like outbound. Like I learned from money.com and from Slack even, that at some point, even if you have a really strong product-led growth, I intentionally didn't send PLG, okay? Because product-led something, then even then, like in most cases, you still want a sales force, not necessarily the SaaS, but a sales force in your company, and you want to have being able to capture the inbound and also use the branding to do outbound. So I'm all in. Like I do like want to do an outbound, and we're starting to work on it like now, but generally we wanted to get to this stage when the inbound is working. So that's how we got to our clients.
So your tweets, your LinkedIn posts, you personally, like that's the way that you got
and
your
also
first
the
customers.
company, it's like a tango between me and myself, the company profile, and also
but I'm
others.
saying,
like
but
we have also
social
other like
posting,
people in the company.
social posting.
Yeah, totally. Yes, that's how we got
Wow.
it. Oh,
Wow.
maybe I'm cheating in one thing, is that we also have strong content. Like social posting is not only necessarily like shit posting. Okay, for example, a year ago, it feels like a decade in our world, we published a paper in an open source that is called Alpha Codium. Alpha Codium, and it's on. Basically, what it does, like it's a tool that with a click of a button, I'm not kidding, with a click of a button, you can reach a master programmer on coding competition. Our submissions are better than OpenAI, DeepMind, Meta, and Salesforce, who are the other companies that are competing on that coding competition. There's another coding competition that we yet to reveal or practice there. We wanted to compete on the big league, which is Codeforce's competition. And obviously, that content, I'm calling it content because I'm putting my marketing hat.
Right.
If I put the CTO hat, I care about the technology and everything we can do in the product in it. But from the marketing perspective, that hat, it was like gold to create those social campaigns. So I just want to say it's not just shit posting, but actually posting which is meaningful, give valuable information and even tools to our audience.
I like when you talk about this, you have such this strong pull and inbound from the market, but you're already investing in sales. I remember distinctly, I remember so well hearing Olivier from Datadog, the founder and CEO of Datadog, speak. And he was talking about how they had just the craziest, like, product-led growth, or, just people installing and using it and paying for it on their credit card. And he said they actually very early, like really, really early in the business, they hit this kind of wall where the growth kind of started to slow. I mean, it didn't stop, but it started to slow. And what the realization was is that they had all this inbound, but they were getting like $1,000 contract, 5,000, and they weren't optimized. They weren't actually calling the customers. And I remember him distinctly talking about how when they started hiring their first salespeople, one of the salespeople went into the database and found that they had 10 different individual developer accounts at Disney. So they just called Disney corporate and said, you already have 10, and now that became I don't remember how, $1 million deal or whatever it was. And I remember that so distinctly because I think so many people who do product-led growth, they kind of, because it feels amazing. I mean, I've been in the early stage where people are just installing and buying, and it feels amazing. And a lot of people don't actually make that investment in sales because, again, especially technical founders, what I find is they're like, I don't want sales. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to deal with it. There's some very well-known companies who are like, we have no salespeople and we will never have salespeople and salespeople are terrible. And in reality, the opportunity with these accounts is definitely much bigger than what it is just self-service, So I love that.
The reason we're doing it because we probably like read the same blogs and podcasts. Like we were preparing for that, and we try to learn. Like obviously we're going to do a lot of mistakes, but I have a joke. I hope it's funny. Basically as a first timer, you do every mistake you can. And the second timer, you do every second mistake you can. As a third time, you do every third mistake you can. And the fourth, like that's how it goes. So basically, like trying to do only 1 out of 4 mistakes, which I would like buy and right away, having that statistics, is also like trying to learn who are the companies you want to learn from their journey and try to apply. And Datadog specifically is one of the 4 like companies that we take we take our learnings that inspire us. So that like definitely one of the reason we started with the sales. So there's a reason we are a 2-year-old company. We are a 2-year-old company, 2.5 if you include like the day we decided to, this is what we want to do, and we started the presentation. There's a reason why we have 7-digit deals, and we are in Gartner Magic Quadrant so early. I didn't care about that. Like we suddenly appear there, and then that's cool. Okay, let's talk to them. And so I think it was because of these learnings and applying them. By the way, I think like I'm bragging quite a lot. I do want to tell you that we have a lot of problems, a lot of issues, and I do a lot of mistakes. Like I would buy today like 1 out of 4 mistakes. Although that's my joke, but I think I'm more like 1 out of 2 or whatever.
Let's just quickly talk about fundraising. So you've had experience. You sold the last company. You're in a hot space. I assume you had a lot of investors that were interested, in investing. Can you just talk me through that fundraising process? Was it really easy? Did you have a lot of people kind of showing up with term sheets? How did you choose? Like, just walk me through that fundraising.
In the seed and almost the same process occurred to me. Like basically, like when I know that I'm going to raise money, I'm going to like say dates just for the sake of the to make it more visually easily understood for our audience. Let's say I know I don't want to raise on May, for example. So around January, I'm not kidding, I already have in mind what's my story. I should, because basically I should already have it a year ago, and I'm trying to fulfill and around January, like I'm starting to sharpen the story, which is amazing journey, because basically what it means is that taking some of your hypotheses and thinking that you had looking ahead and start sharpening them. Because what does a round mean? A round series, another round of funding means what I'm going to do with this new money looking forward, right? So if I was so busy what I'm doing so far, which is half of the story, while kind of having some understanding of the next step, now I want to sharpen that. So you start around January, do that. And you start, checking out, some VCs, starting to build a relationship with some of them. Maybe you already have, but you increase the relationship building, etc. And you get the feeling what works, what's not, what's important for them that you're missing, etc. By the way, a small opening of brackets and then I'll close them. I do think that to some extent you don't need to fucking care anything what the investor tells you. I'll explain that, okay? Basically, you need to care about how you think you need to build a successful company, and you need to convince yourself. Once you are convinced, you will find investors that are also convinced in your story. And some of them will tell you no, because they have a different way of thinking, a different philosophy, etc. So you need to think what the right way for you and your company, or more accurately for your company and for yourself, convince yourself, and then you'll convince the right partners that are agree with you. It doesn't mean that you want to find investors that are yes men, yes sayers or whatever, but they need you aligned with their philosophy with yours. Okay,
It's like
so
getting married, basically. It's like, being comfortable
agree.
with who you are and then finding that partner, right? I mean, I love that, actually, the way you just said that. I think people need to hear that, because I think a lot of first-time founders try to make their pitch fit to what the investor says
Yeah.
and wants, basically, and their thesis, versus think of it like marriage. Like, am I comfortable with myself? Do I know who I am? Do I know what I want in life? That person exists somewhere. I mean, how many venture investors? Thousands. Like, somewhere, someone's going to match up to your vision. It may take 100 meetings, but someone's going to match up to that.
Yeah, I agree. And then that, and then if I close that brackets, and so during let's say February, March, you kind of try to understand which type of VC fits your thesis, your philosophy, and you start building that list. Now there's different school of thought, like here, different, should I go to 100? Should I go to 50, 10? There's going to be totally different. It's going to be a totally different tour, according to the number that you choose. Just an example. I specifically like to do that homework in advance, and eventually come to 15, not more than that. And you can say I'm lucky, or we have the right story or whatever, that we can allow ourselves just to go to 10 or 15, but practically eventually that's what I do. And then around April, you start sending those more clear emails. Hey, I'm visiting San Francisco, whatever. And in May, would you like to meet? They are aware to how things, they know much better than you to sniff and understand that something is cooking here. And they start asking you, oh, it happened to be that I'm not there that week. Can we meet next week? Because they want to be first,
They want to be
right?
first in the line.
Yeah, things like that. And you can check the ground. You can say, oh, I can't only that. So do you prefer to skip? And you will find, you know what, I can meet on Monday, or something like the first day of the week, of that week or something like that, in most cases. And we just started the tour, and within 7 days, I think, we got 2 term sheets, and then additional ones. And we picked, and there was a clear match between our thesis to the investors. You can start optimizing if you like or not. For example, on the brand of the VC, or etc. For me, at early stage, it's much more important to have alignment on the thesis and the people you're going to work with really, really closely, rather on the brand of the VC. I think we have amazing brands, but still, someone can say, I don't know, maybe Sequoia could have been better, brand wise. Just an example. So in my opinion, the partner and the match. Not
Who did
only
you end up working with? Who did you?
By the way,
end up
not only
working
the thesis of the VC, but the specific
yes.
partner. It could change, but still, you want to start. So our Series A is a Square Peg, for example. They're the first investor into Canva. Just an example. They have amazing companies that are really ambitious. I love it. AI Doc, one of the leaders in healthcare. They have, for example, Exotigo and Tomorrow, that are digging under the earth and satellites in the sky and doing different so really ambitious VC, and we're aiming for something really big. We didn't talk about Qodo too much, but I can double click on that later. And then we have Susa Ventures. They're, for example, one of the first checks in Robinhood, and some other amazing companies, and they're very, very, very visionary and founder first, and also very well connected in the valley, and I wanted that foot as well. They're very like doing hard work to understanding the market and who you are and who the company is. And I felt that that's very important when you're talking about Series A and seed. So that I really connected to how they think. So that these are our two investors. About us a bit to explain why it was so important for me to find visionary investors. So basically, when you think about the future, if you're talking about AI that's going to write most of our code, we can start to think all our code, most of our code doesn't matter. Like a lot of code is going to be written by AI. It means that it's also going to complete features end to end. It means that people are not necessarily going to review most of the lines that AI is going to write. Do you feel comfortable with that? Like it could do so many things. You know, the task is complete, the feature is running. Who says that underneath it's not sending data somewhere? You know, or doing different things? Qodo, what we're doing is we're talking about code integrity. We're talking about making sure that the code that is written by a human developer or AI fits the company's best practice, compliance, values, functionality, etc. As a whole. That's what we call it, code integrity, not necessarily just quality. And we're thinking about the vision. You will have AI that are more focused on generating code faster, and Qodo AI to focus on making sure that it doesn't harm, society, humanity, the company's culture, and etc. I'm talking about the end game, because in the middle there's more concrete stuff like less bugs and issues, more high quality software. But as we go, and that's like quite fascinating, at least for me and many, vision and important to task to give to the world, and we needed that VC like think with us, think ahead.
Tell me, what is the biggest, I know Qodo's a new company, but what is the biggest challenge you faced so far at Qodo, and how have you overcome that?
I can tell you something specific, like I'll say it in a sentence, but the problem is a bit bigger than that. I would say, like, one thing I can say, there's a lot of noise. Like, when there's a storm, and when there's a new technology like mobile or cloud. You remember the early days in mobile? Like we had like 1 million application. Hey, here's application of where I can use to shave my beard. Like, what? Why do you need that, my friend? I remember my friends like showing me that. I said it in my heart. Like, hey, look, I paid $1,000 for a diamond screensaver. Remember that?
I remember that. Yeah.
Okay. So like it feels a bit like that, right? No, AI. So there's a lot of noise, but I would say, like, frankly, like it's the easiest answer, but the more accurate and complete answer is that, and I tell it to investors and also new employees. They are also investors, right? They're investing their time. We're bringing the best people in the world and best fitting in the world, and they're investing their time and their career. Is that we are trying to tackle on 3 challenges at once, where usually as a founder, you want to make sure you have only one, which is tech, product, and go to market. Seriously, like as a founder, you want to know, okay, I know how to solve easily the product and tech. The go to market is going to be a challenge, or etc. Like different constellation. The thing is that when you're talking about code quality, software development quality, code integrity, what we're trying to tackle, the technology is not there yet. Like LLMs is not enough. Like there's a lot of technology to be built, and it's not the right podcast, right, to talk about it. The second thing is the UX UI. It's not solved. Chat is going to take everything, all over everything. In code generation, maybe, but in code integrity, no, for sure. And then chat is a very important interface. We push it everywhere, okay? But it's not going to solve. It's not going to be the ultimate soul like UX UI. And talking about the go-to-market, hey, here is the noise, okay? Like there's a lot of noise, and you need to rise above the noise. And here's the importance of why the CEO and other people need to be involved in marketing and creating good content, creating good product, but also bringing it to the front, etc. So that's the real challenge And also it connects to your one of your previous question, with everything that's going on over the it's becoming really challenging to be on top of things. And fortunately and unfortunately, there's all of this is connected. All of these, it's umbrella of challenges that are connected.
I want to transition to your background a little bit. Did you start a company as a teenager, so you knew you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Where does that come from?
Yeah, I do admit that I think the early days, like the first few days and years, were more on the technical. Like what was exciting. It's not so easy in the 90s to get a job as the teenager, like 12, 13, 14 years old. Today it's much easier. There's so many, you can do, don't catch me, like Fiverr, Upwork, who knows actually what's your age, who cares, online, if you do a good job. But back then, it wasn't that easy. So being an entrepreneur to some extent was an opportunity for me to do technology, and that was exciting. But as time passed, it's really appealing to control your future, being able to navigate that more easily. And that bug was injected towards the end of that first company. Understanding that I want to be entrepreneur. I feel that still the being an entrepreneur at that age agent was more still, although still involved into technology, because I could influence, for example, the fact that I can push the company that I'm the CTO of to be on a cutting edge, or I can oversee the overall challenges. Supposedly, you can say that that you can do that as an entrepreneur, entrepreneur.
Yeah, I understand.
Inside a corporate. So I think the entrepreneurship grew over time, and especially I have to say after starting to work in companies, and not actually being an entrepreneur. For example, I worked in Mellanox, and one of the most successful Israeli companies, for example, sold to NVIDIA a few $1 billion. And today I think it's in charge of 13% of its income, something crazy. At least at some report I saw that. And I was automating verification of chips. Makes sense, right? Machine learning, although it's early days. That's what we do at Qodo, just for software. And I remember I wanted to influence some things in the way I wanted to do that. And there was so much convincing that needed to be done. That although I was a worker number 180 and not 180,000 like I was in Alibaba. Okay. But still so much convincing. So part of more technology wise, but as I grew, and I told you the story before, I learned that I want also clearly, I have a vision, I have a vision what I want to change in the world. That point where it's not only how I want to do things, but also what I want to accomplish and what I want to change in the world, and the impact that I want to make, and how I all of that. If you have that as a whole, that's when entrepreneurship, in my opinion, comes really strongly. At least for me. I heard. I think I can say it because I heard that the CTO of Duolingo saying it, so I could quote him. He said, "I became a CTO because I didn't want to work for someone else." For me, it's true, but it's more I have a vision of how I want to build things and what I want to achieve in the world, and that pushed me.
Do you have a role model? Do you have somebody that you, growing up now, is there someone a mentor that you have? Where do you get this, or do you not? Is it a bunch of people kind of surrounding you?
Weirdly, although there is a lot of heroes that I saw throughout the years, actually the people who are much closer to me, those that I admire and looked at, including my uncle, my grandpa, my managers, One of them, for example, is my professor and mentor throughout the university, Professor Lee Zelnick, Manor, etc. And from each one of them, like I learned something else. For example, my uncle was an inventor throughout the 90s, etc. In a Japanese company, actually. And I asked him, how come you have like 4 patents, so impactful, etc. And one thing he told me is that, hey, I'll tell you a little secret, but don't tell it to anyone, okay? Basically, I don't invent anything. I just take one thing that works well in one domain and apply it to other domain. It's the easiest way. And like, when you think about it, like, I was like, what? And then like, you think about it, a lot of inventions are like this. And just for example, like my uncle and etc. So I would say like people close to me that are thoughtful, ambitious, hardworking, etc. Or my heroes and
Um,
mentors.
how you know, this I mean, in my experience, running a business like this, building a business like this is all encompassing. And it takes over your life, you know, in a lot of ways. Not in a bad way, actually, I don't think. But how do you balance that with your family, with, you know, other parts of your life? You know, like, do you believe in work-life balance? Do you believe that that exists? Do you care? You know, um,
Yeah, I'm married plus 3, under 7, under 7.5. It's maybe that would should be the answer for the that is a easy
yeah, the
that
biggest
easy thing
challenge.
that
Oh,
easy thing
oh,
that
yeah.
was much harder than I thought. When we got to 3 kids, basically there's more kids than the amount of hands that I have or my wife have, which means that it makes it hard for each one of us to be alone. And yeah, obviously you can offshore, offload, some things, but eventually you should be a father, right? Otherwise, why did you make kids? So it's not one of those things that I can bring VP of child, or something like that. And and I think that that's very challenging. And I think that we need to treat it really seriously. For example, I can tell you that today during lunch I took my wife to a date.
Mm.
So we like, even if you just like frame it this way, right? She works not far from where I was at that time, and instead of eating quickly during walking, or eating while working in the office, or lunch with one of our prospect clients, etc. You treat it seriously, and yeah, it will take like 1.5 hours, 2 hours instead of 10 or 15 or 30 minutes. But that seriously very, very important. Just an
Really?
example. And I think that there's no, like, you can hear that work-life balance. No, like, it is, you can't compile that sentence. It's more like, how do you how can you make it work together? How can you make it work together? For example, that's one of the reasons that I'm relocating to New York. I feel that I see that I'm flying a lot to New York specifically, and then New York City. I mean, and then, like, if there's a path where my family can be there, and then I'll have less flights, or less long flights, etc. Then, and if it works out, then it's not only for the business, but I'm actually also doing that for the family. So it's like, it's a mutual. Like, actually, you can think that maybe for an AI dev tool, dev platform, you might want to relocate to actually San Francisco or the Valley. So part of the consideration is the family. And not, let's get into like, oh, actually, Sunnyvale is much better place than Brooklyn or whatever. We probably have not heard a lot of things, but
It's not.
from
It's not, but we can, that's a different
yeah,
discussion.
so people, it's a different discussion, but it doesn't matter like if this or that is better. I can tell you, for my family, it's better relocate for New York.
Mm,
So part of the decision, it's like, can we find a combination that is good for the company, and good for the family at the same time?
mm. Okay, last question for you. Knowing everything you know today and your entire career, all the different businesses you've been a part of, including this one, what is the one piece of advice you would go back and give yourself before you started your first job?
Yeah. So I think that like one thing that easy to say is the culture thingy. Like I got it too late. I think it's very important. I think even I will look forward. I think I will tell myself that I even didn't. I should even put more effort into it. I'm not kidding. But it's actually something like that's to some extent I can even say that is the fish and not the hook. And I think that one of the most important thing for me that I didn't do enough in my opinion is like learn everything on myself instead of learning from others, like reading books, reading listening to podcasts like yours, and etc. Like doing that work because it's so like. By the way, like you can even frame it in a bigger scope, like investing in yourself and investing even in sport, right? Not going like build yourself and not necessarily like quickly jump into like building something, building the product, building. By the way, you can find conflicts in what I'm saying because I don't know, like if you look on Mark Zuckerberg, I don't know, maybe he built himself like so amazingly before the Facebook but basically he grew. Sorry, from as far as I understand, like or maybe I have a misunderstanding or I don't have the knowledge throughout the process of building Facebook. Okay,
Right.
Meta. So it's not one way to go, but I think that for most people, with all the respect, like myself, I didn't necessarily came naturally born with all that knowledge and intelligence and whatever that maybe Mark Zuckerberg had. And like building yourself is so important and have different set of skills and that you need to have, for example, as a CEO, in my opinion. Like you can't nail it with one thing. You need to know how to work well with people and read people, and you need to how to think about the world, predicting vision, etc. You need to know how to work with investors and finance and legal and things like that, etc. So and I think like investing in yourself and reading and learning and not still do that just in time. I'm talking about like for developer just in time compilations for some people, like for the education people, there is just in time learning. It's actually a term, I think. And like I'm not saying like do that, but invest in yourself. And every day if I need to say once if I have an alarm clock and I need to choose one thing that will tell me every morning when I wake up, it's like learn something this day today.
I like that. Well, I'm very happy that we did this. I'm happy that Barack put us in touch and connected us. And thank you. There's so much in this conversation that I think is relevant to all founders and CEOs, but I really think technical founders and CEOs can learn so much from this. So thank you very much for doing this.
My pleasure. And I enjoyed reading some portion that's still going through it through your booklet and through our discussion. Thank you so much for having me here.
Awesome. Thank you. Hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please share it with your networks, and we'll see you for the next episode of Not Another CEO Podcast. That's a wrap for this week's episode of Not Another CEO Podcast. Thanks for joining. For show notes and more, please visit notanotherceopodcast.com. We'll see you next week.